Hey guys, welcome to the Titanium Vault. I'm your host, RJ Bates III, and today I have a very special guest, Mr. Max Jimenez. How you doing, Max?
I'm great, brother. How are you? Thank you for inviting me.
Just another day in paradise. So, look, I've been meaning to have you on the show for a while, and
Yeah.
then we finally have a reason to do this outside of just hey, we're friends and we know each other. We were
Yep.
both finalists in the Closers Olympics, the 2021 Closers Olympics.
Yep.
It was I don't know about you, man. I had a blast this year. I thought they put on a great show, and I thought it enabled us to go in there and showcase our skills and hopefully put on
100%.
some education for people. So
Yeah.
before we get into the specific questions, I just want to ask you overall, what was your experience like? I know this is your first go around. What
Right.
was your experience like?
So really quick, when Elijah invited me, right, he called me up. He's like, "Hey, Max, I wanted to extend an invitation for you to come on the Closer Olympics." I'm like, "Brother, that's awesome. I really appreciate that. We're gonna have, and he told me who was gonna be on and coming back and
Right,
stuff. And then so I accepted it right away, right? I think overall, I was looking more for it's a great platform to showcase. I think you said it right, showcase your skills because a lot of people, for the most part, they see a lot of teaching and they see a lot of thing on social media, right? Like, here's how
right,
you would approach a seller, here's how you would talk to a seller, which is fine and dandy at the end of the day. But being able to show people and showcase, what it's really like for you to
right.
navigate when you're talking to a seller, especially at high level like yourself, myself, and the other attendees that were participating. I think it was really great. So my experience, man, I learned a lot, honestly, because one thing that I was on another podcast, and what I told them, RJ, was that you're always in your world, right? And
Right.
so you're in your business and the way you do things and the way you approach. But that was one of the biggest thing, is that I learned something from you. I learned something from Munif. I learned something from everyone that was participating, and I took little bits and pieces. Um, and apply, and actually I've already started to adjust some of the things that we do, because we're very systematic, that, right?
Right.
Our style is very systematic. We have a very systematic approach to our sales process. But we've not say that we gotten away from that, but we took bits and pieces of what I learned from the event when it comes to activity and all that stuff, and I'm pretty sure we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But overall, the experience was great. I think those guys, I've said this a couple of times already, is that putting on an event is hard, and you know this, right? You have your crucible, and things happen, and this is in live in person. Putting on an event online is just a whole nother beast. And shout out
Oh,
to all them guys,
absolutely.
man. Yeah,
I mean, they're trusting us on our end to make sure we're set up. We good audio, good video. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
and there was issues. I know
Of
there was
course.
issues on day one, but they went through it. I released an episode yesterday with the co-hosts Byron and Pat Hilton. And
Hmm.
look, I thought those guys they did a great job kind of navigating the whole event. I thought they
Yeah,
added a lot as the host, and overall it was a great event to be a part of. And it's funny you bring up you learned a lot, right?
yeah,
And that was the one thing I kept repeating after 2020 was I
yeah.
was like, dude, I got to watch 20 hours of closing from the
Right.
best closers in the industry. And,
Yeah.
and I was blown away by how much I learned
Right.
last year and this year. I mean, even this year, I mean, it was like I'm watching. I said this yesterday to Byron and Pat. They said Max put on an absolute clinic in the finals in the first 8 minutes. Like
Right.
legitimately, I made a mistake yesterday. I said it's $97. It was $97 to attend live. Okay.
Right.
They're
Right.
charging $297 for the replay. You get to keep it forever. Okay.
Right. Right.
$297. I would pay that for the 8 minutes of your first phone call on Saturday or Sunday.
Right.
Like
Right.
you put on an actual clinic of what your script is,
Right.
what to say, overcoming objections. You walked it through, and I was nervous at that, but that was like the one point in the event where I was like, okay, Max is bringing it today. Like you had your
Right.
game face on, right? And you
Yeah.
put on a performance right there. So I want to get into that a little bit just to
Sure.
start off with. when you guys do have a systematic approach to what you're doing, and I want to touch on that, but
Yeah.
I've also heard you say that you changed your system because of the time constraints of the Closers Olympics. So, what specifically did you take out in your process for the Closers Olympics?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, because I did talk about that, right? And when you came and did the podcast,
Yeah,
we talked about that offline, and I don't know if I've shared this with anyone out, outside or offline, or sorry, on a podcast, or
right,
on I think I did on the Disruptors one. But so the one thing I changed was because of the time restriction, and I think looking at it over again, I don't know, I might have not, I probably wouldn't have changed it, but it worked out, right? It worked out. So we have in our sales process, we have where we call establishing the rules, right? This is where we actually tell the seller what's going to happen on the call. From we're going to ask you questions, or some are going to be personal, right? We're also going to at the end of the call, or before the end of the call, if it makes sense for us to work together, what that means is that we're going to put everything in writing. So it's a huge piece of our process. And so as I look back, and I haven't went back and watched it, I'm the type of person that it takes me a very long time to go back and watch myself, like,
right,
or watch the replay and stuff. And I will, though, at some point, for sure. And so that was the piece that I took out. I relied mostly on questions, reverses, takeaways. And so the piece that I didn't add in, and that I said, and I was sold on it. I made my commitment to, hey, I'm going to change that because of time. I don't think it's going to fit, especially if we're looking to get points, get commitments, and also potentially get a contract, right, live, like you did. I don't want to, because that's a little longer process, when we're talking to our sellers, and I don't think it's going to be the right, it's the platform and the time. I'm going to take that out.
right.
But here's the thing: is that on the final day, I didn't know, I didn't know it was going to be 60 minutes, brother. I'm like, I was talking to Ryan. Ryan was here. He was helping me. My team was actually all here Saturday. I had my TC, the couple of guys that were helping me comp, and then another guy was listening to the judges to see what they were saying and stuff. So my whole team was here. But Sunday, I didn't know that we were getting 60 minutes. I thought it was 30 minutes, and I don't know if that threw you off. I was actually second guessing myself. I'm like, do I go back and just do our full process, or do I not? But I was already committed. I already made the adjustment. I'm not going to change it halfway through the game, if you want to use that word, right?
So what's funny about that is 2020. I go into it and I know that there's a time constraint and there's a shot clock.
Right.
So I was very aggressive about, are you looking to sell? What's your price? And everyone was blown away because they were like, RJ's so aggressive. And that was the word everyone used. And it really pissed me off because there was 18 months where it was like, RJ's just so aggressive. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I actually pride myself on like mirroring the seller and matching their tonality.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, people didn't realize that the two people I talked to in 2020 in that first round were investors. Right. They were hardcore, and they were like, "Look, do you want to buy my house or not?"
Yeah.
Very
it's a definitely a different conversation when you're talking to investors than a homeowner. 100%.
So yep. I mirrored them and I matched them, and everyone thought that's how I do everybody. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to be like that with a 80-year-old grandma.
No, of course not.
Come on. And so going into this year, it was like I still was prepared to just be myself.
Yeah.
And not really change anything. But I'm a lot more fluid than you guys. Like, I don't have set things like set the rules, right?
Yeah.
I'm not, I will do that my own way, but it's not necessarily I have to do this. And it was funny because Steve asked me questions when I came in to do the Real Estate Disruptors podcast. He asked me about, well, how hard is it for RJ to train his team to be like RJ? Right. And so I asked him, hey, if I came to work for you guys, would you force me to fit your system? And he literally told me he would not hire me unless I followed your system. So my next question is, Max, if I said I want to come work for you guys, are you going to hire me or are you going to let Steve push me away?
So first we'll have you take a PI, predictive index. Let's check out your profile. No, I'm just kidding. It's so much like, so we do obviously have a process, right? And we want everybody to follow it because it works at the end of the day,
Right,
right? It works for our business. The way we approach sales, it works really well. And everybody on the team has bought into that, right?
right,
And so just to have someone come and do their own thing, if you want to call it that, it's just going to the culture we built, right? It's not going to fit it. And so it could ruin the culture. I wouldn't say that we wouldn't hire you. I mean, if you would have told me like, hey, man, if we're interviewing you, like, hey, Max, hell no, I'm not following your process. I'm a certified
right.
bone, closer, then yeah, that's a different conversation. But I just based off now, yeah, I would hire you, of course, 100%.
What's funny about it is that I would look at your system and say I can absolutely work within those parameters, like the things that you teach,
Yep,
because the proof is in the pudding. I mean,
correct.
Steve steps up and he does excellent in 2020. Here
Right.
comes you, his partner,
Yep.
and you make it to the finals.
Right.
I mean, that right there, and I know you guys sell your sales training, and
Hmm.
and I want everyone to understand this. I've said this when I had Carlos Reyes in about All In. I said it
Hmm.
when I had Pace Morby here for Sub 2. I'll say it about you guys. We all sell education, but there's value in each one of our education programs because we're teaching something different,
Of
right?
course.
And what
Yep.
you guys teach there, it's obviously a repeatable process for your
Yeah.
sales team that generates results. And
Yeah.
and I love that because sales is such a fluid thing.
Of
But you
course.
have broken it down to where you can steer the conversation a certain way and get the results that you desire. So
Yeah.
my question on that is how often are you making tweaks to that system? Like, is it something that it's kind of set in stone and it is the way it is, or are you guys constantly analyzing and saying, "Hey, let's add in something new"?
No, no, it's not set in stone. I think if you work with that mindset, you're in trouble, right? You
Right.
can't be like that. You can't work that mindset. It's something that we work on consistently. Matter of fact, we do with our team. We're every Tuesday and Thursday, we're doing role playing. We're listening to calls, and then we're adjusting to, hey, let's not say this here so aggressive. Let's tone that down a little bit, right?
Yep.
Hey, let's add this when when this is happening. It sounds like this is working better. So yeah, no, it's not set in stone. I think it's like a roadmap, right? You have a roadmap, and I'm going to point B, right, from point A to point B. I might go sightseeing a little bit, but at least the roadmap is still there for me to make it to point B, and that's kind of how we treat our system, right? Even though it's very systematic and the approach has a lot into it, like that doesn't mean that we can add a little bit more report, or a little bit more questions, or sometimes we have to adjust to whatever the seller is giving us at the end of the day. Yeah, it's not like you got to do it like this. You can't veer from that at all.
Right.
100%. Yeah.
So I want to ask you because your final position in the Closers Olympics was third place.
Yeah.
I personally, my personal opinion is I felt like you should have finished second. I
Yeah.
mean,
100%. Me too.
and I mean no disrespect to Munif. I thought Munif did great.
Yeah.
I just look, you put on a technical clinic
Right.
on Sunday, and Munif put on a uh, rapport building clinic
Right.
on
Right.
Sunday, right?
Right.
And so for me, when I look at it from a closing perspective, I just thought you outperformed him pretty significantly. I
Yeah.
was I was actually shocked when it was even as close as it was. But that being said, so second, third place, finalist position. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
were
Right.
you pleased with your results, or did you feel like you left something on the table?
So I think here's, and actually one of the things that I wanted to say when coming to doing the podcast with you is I think I was you last year. So what I mean
Yep.
by that is that even though I still go to appointments or I still get on a call here and there, I think my problem was my fluidity, because even though I know the system very well, right? And the reason why I know it very well is because I've done it. I've been in the trenches. I've done all the work. That's how we build our scripts. Even though a lot of
Right.
this stuff you can learn, we learned it by getting we adjusted it to our business by getting our face kicked in, right? Going
Yep.
out there, talking to sellers. But obviously, as you grow in your position, being owner of the company as well too, it's like I can't be in those trenches every single day. And so the fluidity of it, if you want to call that, that's what I think I was missing for the most part. Because especially because I'm not on the phones every day. Occasionally I'll jump on some calls, I'll go out to some face-to-face appointments. But I think that's what I was missing, is being more fluid, knowing where to adjust, and things like that. That I think that hurt me a little bit. If I gotta think of something that I left, is because, again, going back to you. So my plan this year is to kind of do what you did, right? I have the closers lab coming up this year, where I'm going to be doing once a week. I'm going to be doing live calls, and I'm going to be doing, calling on live leads. But
Yep.
I would say that was the big thing for me, because I felt a little bit not so much fluid when I was on the calls, even though I know the system, I can work the system. Obviously, I've mastered it. But I think that was it, because there's a difference from understanding a system and being systematically to a fluid conversation, right? Like we're having a fluid conversation right now,
Right.
where it's normal. We're laughing, we're talking about certain things. And that's the piece I think that I was missing on. I don't know if you agree to that or not, if you think the same thing.
I'll use a couple of examples, because I wanted to ask you, and look, this is to everyone. I have a ton of respect for Max, so this is
Yeah.
in no means like me nitpicking him or anything like that.
No,
This
of
is
course.
literally like closer to closer. I wanted to ask you, hey, is this part of your process? Was this
Right.
intentional, or was it because of that? Like when you just said, honestly, like, hey, I just don't do it that much,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so there's moments where you look back and you say, I wish I probably would have done this. There
yeah.
was the gentleman that had the 1031 exchange.
Yes.
Okay. So there was moments in that where I was like, I was wanting to know why you didn't attack his desire for the 1031 a little bit differently. For
Yep.
example, I would have, the moment that he brought that up, I would have said, hey, what kind of properties are you looking to invest in? Because we can provide those for you as
Right.
a wholesaler. We could go find properties for you. You asked it a certain way. I can't remember the exact language you used, but it seemed like he didn't understand it.
Right. Right.
And you repeated it again. And so I understand that from a kind of a psychological standpoint, where you almost are wanting to confuse them, so then you could be the
Right.
authority explaining it.
Of course.
Is that
So
what was happening there?
no, absolutely not. That's a good point though that you brought up. We do use that in a way, but for that specific situation, that was not what I was trying to do. I think that's actually the perfect example of what I'm talking about. I think
Yeah.
it's just it's just the repetitiveness and the
Yeah.
fluidity, and the I want to say experience, but it's just not being on the calls all the time, right? Because I could have went and having more conversations. That's where I was like, man, I was trying to push it. I was telling them what
Right.
we wanted to do. But yeah, you're right. You're right. And that's a good piece. That's not what I was trying to do. I think it's just the lack of the fluidity of conversations,
And
honestly.
I bring this up for people to understand that there are moments, and I call them the moments of truth in a call, where literally your spontaneous split-second decision can be the difference between it going A plus number one call to, man, that
100%.
kind of got awkward there for a second,
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
and I noticed that just in that call, he was kind of an older gentleman,
Yeah.
and he was like not picking up what you were throwing down, and it was
Right.
just like my from watching you, and obviously, look, I go back. I've already watched myself. I watched
Right. Right.
myself this morning. I was trying to pick a moment in my call to show the guys something I did, and I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
watching.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, why did I say that? Like I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't do that
Right.
again. So we all have those moments, but this was that moment where it was like,
Yeah.
what would have happened if you had just gone across to him that, hey, if you want to invest this 200,000, 600,000, I can't remember whatever the number was.
Correct.
We can find those properties for you. We have those properties available right now. If
Yeah.
it did resonate with them, that what would have happened at the end of that conversation.
Yeah.
And that was also tough because you were getting in that awkward moment in the final round where it was like, you really hadn't had any good leads.
Yeah.
So
no.
were you ever struggling to make that decision of, should I cut this call short and move on to the next one? Or do I continue here with the conversation because this could make it the epic call?
So there's two things that happened in that when I was talking to him. So the first mistake I did was I didn't turn the volume down. And again, this is not an excuse, right? But it happens when you know what they say is, it sells is a slight edge, right? It can titter totter. You just said it right now, right? It can go from an excellent conversation in a matter of, milliseconds to like, this is awkward.
Right.
And so that was one of those moments where I actually had my earbuds. I didn't keep them in, so I didn't want to hear the judges or what they were saying. I actually left it a little on and I stuffed it in here, and I heard one of the judges say something. I reacted to it. Yeah. So again, I reacted to it, and that's not an excuse, right? It's just, it was in the moment. I reacted to it and I adjusted to the next thing I was going to say based on what I reacted to. I think it was Max Maxwell, and I can't remember exactly what he said. And I reacted to it, and I made the decision to act on what the judges were seeing, just so I can get the score right. But overall, again, if going back to what I was saying earlier, having the repetitions matters, right? This is what I tell a lot of people, right? The repetitions are going to help you. I think just having the repetitions would have helped me overcome that a little bit more. Yes, there was a point where I actually wanted to end the call, but I'm thinking, man, this guy, he's opening up, he's there's something here. He's obviously I'm just trying to figure out if I can get him to the point of where he would make a decision today. But definitely it crossed my mind whether I should have hung up sooner or not. I probably should have, but that's hindsight 2020,
So walk me through, because after our day one, okay, there was the open run on Friday, but day one, the competition Saturday.
Yeah.
You had the highest score. You scored, I believe, 80 points. I scored 79 or 90 and 89, somewhere.
Yeah. Right.
You were 1 point ahead of me.
Yep.
And knowing that, did you feel more pressure going into the final day, knowing that you had the highest score after the round one?
Not necessarily. I didn't feel like pressure to continue to stay on that number one. My focus was just to continue what I did on day one, right? Which is our day one, Saturday, if you want to call that. That's really my mindset, was like, okay, so I see where we're at. Now we just got to continue that same path, same thing that we were doing. But then again, the next day, Sunday, I'm finding out we got 60 minutes. I don't know if you knew that or not. It threw me off a little bit. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And so my mind, again, and again, going back to what I said in my comment earlier, it sells is, you have a slight edge, right? Like, you make a quick decision, and I tell my guys, it's a teeter totter, right? So it's like, you can't push too hard because you'll blow them off the teeter totter. You just gotta, give them the motion and go up and down. So that's kind of what I was struggling with a little bit. Like, man, now I got 60 minutes. I know that I'm gonna have to adjust just a little bit, and that's what I was saying earlier. But I didn't feel pressure per se. My mindset was just like, okay, let's continue. I actually, you saw me. I came to win, right? I didn't come to just participate. So.
And it was funny because I saw you before, and I said, man, Max has got his game face on. He's intense right now. The reason why I asked is because you brought it up. You're like, I'm kind of you in 2020, and you're right. I mean, I had this epic first round in 2020, and then it was like, all of a sudden, everyone was, tagging me in stories and reaching out and calling me and texting me, and they're like, and then I sit down, and they did make a massive change this year. Okay. Mm-hmm. Last year, we could see the attendees chat box while we were going. This year, we can always see the judges and the people in the background, right?
Yeah.
So when I sat down to go in round 2 of last year, I'm seeing everyone like, can't wait to see what he does this time, after round 1. And so I immediately felt this huge amount of pressure.
Right.
And then I was getting MLS leads. And it was like, Oh, dude, this is and I felt for guys. I saw it this year where it was like the leads just weren't there and they were
Yeah,
trying and it was tough. You know,
right,
I
right.
felt bad for you and Munif in that last round. Y'all didn't really get a whole lot of
Yeah.
good leads. I would have
Although
preferred
I
if
have to
like we
say
all get
though,
like one good lead.
no, no, for sure. But still, I think, and again, this is not to take from what Munif did. For me, I think he spent way too much on I want to say it's the second call. I think the
Fact.
seller was actually selling him.
Right.
Yeah. So for me, you saw, I mean, you said it right. In the first 8 minutes, I was clockwork. Like, I'm not going to spend time.
Yeah.
Like, let's go, let's go, let's go. But definitely the leads. Yeah. I would say I didn't complain too much about them, but they weren't the best if you want to, call on the leads. Yeah.
Agreed. Agree. And I mean, I think everyone has voiced their opinion about that. Even Byron and Pat. Byron was like, "Look, I'm not trying to nitpick, but I mean, I wish the leads would have been better. Like,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
here to call warm vetted leads.
Yeah.
Let's
But
see that.
also, but also though, RJ, I think the people got to see that, no matter what, an actual, a certified closer, if you're a certified closer, you're gonna overcome, some objections, right? You're gonna overcome some things that, maybe a bad lead, you can turn it around based on some questions and whatever it is that you say to them, it could turn around. But again, that's why I didn't complain too much about it, because I was just there to show my skills, and it didn't
Right.
matter, right? Yeah, I think you had
So
the same mindset for the most part.
yeah. So I want to ask you, outside of yourself, okay, what was a moment in the Closers Olympics that stood out from a teaching perspective, something you haven't seen, or just a moment for you that you'll look back, 2-3 years from now and be like, man, that was a really cool moment. For me, I'll use an example. For me in 2020, it was Steve's cliffhanger voicemail. I'll
Yeah.
never forget that moment where I was like, holy shit, that was sick what he just did. So
Yeah,
did you have any moments like that this year?
I did. Actually, it was on the last day on your call. I was, actually you did this on our first day on Saturday. I was like, oh, because we're very transparent, aggressive. We'll hang up on you, right, if it's not a deal.
Right.
But man, you 10x that. You're like, hey, I'm in a competition. I got to get this contract. I mean, and I love that kind of stuff. I don't shy away from that. And I just
Right.
didn't think about that. For me, it was like, damn. I'm like, and I wasn't gonna do it on the final day, right? Because it would have been
Right.
it would have been a moment of where everybody was trying to use. I probably caught you at a bad time. Remember that?
Right.
Steven Morales and then Munif
Right.
started. It would have been an awkward moment. So I'm not. I was like, no, let me not jump into that, because I will Sunday. I will go that route, but I don't think it's the time. But that was, for me, that was huge, because honestly, it's honesty, right? And I think
Right.
people for the most part love that, right? And you call the guy Bubba, hey Bubba,
Yeah.
I need to get this contract.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was huge. That was a huge takeaway for me, just being very, very transparent, because we pride on that, right? We'll
Yeah.
tell you if it's a deal or not, all that good stuff. The second thing is Munif's mirroring. I think that was next level, man. I mean, we pride ourselves on mirroring the seller. You did a good job. Where what Munif did is he actually sounded like the sellers
I
at some
know.
points. I was like, holy shit, like, man,
Yeah.
this guy starting to sound like the sellers. That blew me away for sure. So
Yeah.
there was and quite a bit of other stuff, but for those, if I could say, they stood out for me, and I learned that, like, wow. And I came back and I told our team, like, guys, we got to step out our mirroring, have a lot more activity, and then also, call things out more, just like, what you were doing, and be very transparent. So we actually implemented that.
Yeah. And look, going to the transparency conversation, I cannot stress enough that I think that's what separates an average closer or a good closer from an average closer, right? Is the
Yeah, yeah.
ability to have a transparent conversation,
Right.
utilize education inside of a conversation, right?
Mhm.
You will see me. Steve asked me about discussing the exit strategy, so I want to ask you about that because
Sure.
I love to talk about what my exit strategy is going to be because it
Right.
allows me to also educate the seller on why I need to be where I need to be.
Correct.
Steve felt like that was one of my biggest negatives is the fact that I would bring up the exit strategy. So what are your thoughts about actually discussing what I plan on doing with the property to the seller?
Well, so there are sellers that'll ask us that, right? They'll say, "Well, what are your plans with the property?" So the way we answer that is, again, we're not going to we don't dive too deep into it.
Right.
I'm more of and here internally we're more of, hey, well, there's and I think this is standard. A lot of people do this. Is more like, hey, we don't know what we're gonna do with the property, right? Sometimes we'll buy them, put them into our rental portfolio. Other times, we'll fix and flip them. We'll buy them, do the rehab, repair them, and then sell them out in the open market. It just depends. But we do add the caveat is it just depends on how much we buy it for. See, so we will add that in there. So now it's going to get the brain going of the seller,
Right.
and sellers are like, okay, I get that. So I know if you guys got to fix it up, you got to buy it a little lower, and so they understand that. So that's about as far as we go in regards to what our exit strategy is for the seller. I don't think we've ever said we're going to wholesale it. I don't know if you said that or not on one of the calls. I'm trying to remember if you did
I
or
don't think
not.
I did on this one, but what I'm talking about is like, for example, if my intentions are to wholesale it, I
Right.
always want to run the numbers as a flip.
Got it. Yeah.
Okay. So that's my number one exit strategy when I'm wholesaling, because that's where you buy the deepest,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
So if I sit there and I say, well, look, I have to do this amount of repairs, and
Hmm.
then I'm going to need somewhere in the range of 20 to 30% for my holding costs, my
Right.
closing costs, my profit. I break it down and turn it into an unemotional mathematical equation, essentially.
Right. 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 Right.
And
Yep.
so that's where I think it's like, I'm almost taking the that to a next level where y'all are like at a next level with your systematic approach.
Yeah, it
I
is.
turned it into like a next level unemotional mathematical equation where it's like, see
Yep.
where Mr. Seller, can you walk me through where I can wiggle my numbers, because it's
Yeah.
just math to me. Where can I
Yeah.
move the needle?
Yeah.
And
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, honestly. And it all depends on the approach you take to it, and you do it
right,
very well. Yeah, I don't. If I try to do that, or anybody else tries to do that, we would have to. It's just the way you deliver it is. I think it matters, right? And you do
right.
a very good job at it for sure.
And here's the thing that I want everybody to understand about the Closers Olympics, because I've had people reach out to me, and Max, I'm sure you're the exact same. Like, dude, I loved what you did. I'm going to implement your style into my closings, and
Yep.
I think Max would agree with this. Please don't do that.
Yep.
Okay, what you are seeing us do are opportunities for you to add things, a tool to your tool belt.
Yep.
Like, do not go try to be me. Don't try. If I tried to be Max, I would have finished in last place,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's very important to understand that this is an opportunity for you to add something to your
Yep.
tool belt and create your own style, or get full training from someone like Steve and Max, where you understand the full process of why they're doing it. You can't
Yep.
under, I can't tell you why Max does what he does in his
Right.
home without sitting down in his office and being trained by him.
Yeah.
So
No, I agree 100%. I even guys, even people that sorry, even people that come to our sales training, that's what we consistently are going we defer back to that. Even, an- every other half hour, every other hour, right? Like,
right,
guys, we're teaching you a certain strategy, but don't try to be like us. Take what we're talking about here today. Don't change your business. Don't change who you are.
right,
Add this to where it can help your business and where it can help you as an individual to get better. You don't
right,
need to change it. You don't need to change your whole demeanor. That's the worst thing that you can do. I'm a big believer in that, right?
right,
Most people would look at you, and I've had people exactly. I've had people message me and actually say that, like, man, I'm trying to change my whole sales process to how you run it. And I always tell them well, first of all, that's a mistake, because you're
right,
not going to be able to. Unfortunately, that's sorry to say that. And not saying because you can't learn the system. It just takes years. It's going to take you a long time to do it exactly the same. You got to just take what works and where you can modify and adjust to get you better. And I'm a big believer in, if you can get 1% better, regardless, I think you're on the right track.
right. And the other aspect is for me personally, I think if you're just trying to be just like Max or just be just like me, you're missing out on your best asset, which is yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's what people are going to resonate with,
Yep,
right?
yep.
They're gonna be like, man, this guy is being real. He's
Yeah,
being himself. He's not trying to sell me on something. In fact, he's trying to buy something from me. I
yeah,
need to sell him. I want to do business with him.
yeah.
That's where I think you miss out on that if you try to be just like someone else.
No, 100%. Well, let me
Max,
ask you. Let me ask
yeah,
you a
go ahead.
question. What was your What was one thing that you thought like what was one thing like on the first day on Saturday? Because there was some stuff right that could have been better, but obviously, like we talked about earlier when we started, like it's an online event, so that's just tough. Let's just start there, right? But as far as the because I know some guys didn't get like a fair shot. I know some of our leads
Yeah.
were bad, but as far as the time extension, do you think we should have that next year, or should it just
Uh,
be?
no, in fact, I have no idea why there were time extensions. In
Yeah.
fact, I was the first person that received a time extension
Right,
because
right,
my Wi-Fi went down for 4 minutes
right,
and I
right,
didn't know it. And in during those 4 minutes, I got a verbal agreement. And then
right,
I look at the computer and I'm like, holy shit, I'm not on. And I add myself in and I'm back in. And I'm like, I just got the phone. I got a verbal agreement. And they're like, well, yeah, that's sure you did, RJ. Well, we didn't hear it. And
right,
so they gave me 4 more minutes. And I was like, I mean, that was awfully generous. I mean, it's
right.
my fault for the Wi-Fi going down. I mean, I'm the one that
Yeah.
chose to do this in a hotel room in
Right, right,
Cleveland,
right.
Ohio. So I was blown away that they gave it to me. And then I was even more blown away where I just saw people going, and because they weren't getting good calls, it was just like, yeah, give them 5 more minutes. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And my number one question, and Byron and Pat brought this up, and I
Mhm.
think this is a very good point because, and I'll reiterate it because I give this kid a lot of hard time because I love him and I
Yeah.
think he's a superstar. But if you're going to give Munif the opportunity to go on Sunday because it was too late in the day,
Yeah.
how did Aaron Bevins get the shaft like he
Yeah.
got?
No, 100%. That's the reason why I bring this up, because of that specific example.
I mean, dude, look. He stayed on the phone with the guy that wanted basically $200,000 more than the ARV. Way too long.
Yep. Exactly.
But outside of that, I mean, it was just like, dude, the guy is cold calling at 8:30 p.m.
Mhm.
on a Saturday. I
Yeah.
mean, dude, you're just not gonna have good results doing that.
No, no, no. No,
And
100% you're not.
I felt like that there needs to be some more strict rules in regards to
Yeah.
the competition. Like,
Right.
I mean, bottom line is you don't get more time in NBA games or NFL games because the wind was blowing too hard. It's
Right,
like
right.
this is the game.
This
It's
is the
like you
game,
got your
yeah.
30 minutes, you're done.
Yep,
And there needs to
exactly.
be a set off cut time where it's like, hey, we went over. We're not going to have this closer call past 7:30 p.m. or 7
Yeah.
p.m. or whatever.
Yeah.
The other thing I suggested was comps need to be on the screen for
Yeah.
everyone to view. They said there's some logistic issues to that, but you were under the impression, like I was, that we were getting comps sent to us,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yes, 100%. That's what, especially on Sunday, I was strictly relying on, Saturday I had a little bit of help here in the office, but not
Right,
much, because at the end of the day, even though we may have our own comps from what we were told, the judges could disagree with that number. So
right.
then I'm like, okay, so I threw that out the window. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna wait and not necessarily wait, but let's see what the judges say, what they think this is worth, then I can just play off that. But yeah, I think the comps need to come in a little bit faster, maybe even display like you're saying.
Dude, there
I
was a
I'm 100.
moment. I don't know if you remember this or not, but I'm backstage while you're going, and I literally comment on the private chat. I'm like, "Are we doing comps today? Are we getting MAOs?" Because
I think I saw
I'm
that. Yeah,
watching,
yeah, I saw your comment. I did. I
I'm
saw that.
watching you
Yeah.
go, and I'm like, "Holy fuck! Give the guy an MAO!" Like, what is he? I'm like, how long are we gonna make Max wait?
I
I mean, he's
know.
over
I know.
here. You were asking like 500 questions, and I'm like, is this a deal? Is this not a deal? Because
Oh
I'm
man.
just a spectator right now watching, and I'm like, I don't know if this is
Yeah.
going anywhere or not. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, this is that needed to be a little bit better. I don't know if there was. I think they were saying it was hard to comp. They were struggling to find comps, and it's like I get that, but some
Right.
point in
Right.
time, like, come on, how many people we got backstage pulling comps? Someone can throw out a
Yeah.
damn number.
Somebody throw out a
Somebody.
number.
Right. And if not, just tell us, like, hey, we're not providing you comps. You have
Yeah,
to do it
that
yourself. Because I was just
exactly.
like you. I was just solely relying on them.
Yeah. That was
You
me,
know.
100%. Yep, 100%.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you about is how much of the competition did you watch? Did you watch a lot of the other people go, or did you
I
kind of just
did.
do yourself?
No, no,
Okay, so
I
you
did.
watched
I
all.
did. Yeah, no, I watched the other competitors go for sure.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I want to ask you. Look, this is my channel, so we like to talk about the good and the bad.
Of
Okay,
course. Of
so
course.
so was there ever a moment where you were like, oh, what the fuck? Like you don't do that. Like,
Must be
come
asking
on.
that for a reason, RJ.
Hey, listen, you don't have to use names. You don't have to call anybody out. But was there a moment that you can if you want to? Because I probably will. So was there ever a moment where it was like, hey, man, that you should have done better?
Yeah, there was. I mean, I'll be frank with you, right? Like, I think overall I was a little surprised, from some of the participants, the approach that they took. Just because, again, I talked to Steve about this, right? I'll be transparent. That's the kind of way that I like to be. I told him,
Right,
because we see a lot of on social media, right? And we can make the videos and we can talk about. And I said this in the beginning of our podcast here is that we can say, here's how you approach a seller. Here's
right,
what you need to say when this happens. But when it's go time, baby, when it's game time, that that's not the way it works, right? And
right.
so and I understand that, right? Like you and I probably understand that. Like you're gonna have to adjust. But there was really surprising where some of the stuff was just like left field. There was nothing compared to like what
Right.
I saw on social media and some of the posts that I've seen from some of the people that participated. So
Yeah.
I was really shocked seeing that. And so yeah, no, it was very surprising. So at that point, even my guy Ryan, he's like, bro, he's just shaking his head like and looking at me like, Max, you better crush this.
Right. Exactly. And look, I'll be honest with you. There was a moment to me that I keep pointing out, and because I think it's important for people. Like, look, you might be watching. We're 43 minutes in on this. At
Yeah,
this
yeah.
point, it's probably more entertainment than education. But this is an educational point. I bring it up because I think it cost them a chance in the finals. But
It did.
Steven Morales had a deal
Yeah.
where, I mean, he basically had it. He had sent the guy the contract. The guy's got the contract pulled up in
Yep.
DocuSign, ready to go.
Looking
Okay?
at it. Yeah.
So it sounds like it's a 1 or 2 page contract. So it's probably an initial and a sign. I mean, we're talking about 2 points of the fingers, and you are in the finals, probably
Yeah.
with the highest score in day one.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
The guy says, I've read over your contract. I mean, it's pretty simple. There's pretty much nothing here, but
Mm-hmm.
I want to sleep on it. I want to think about it. This was like the objection. It was like he told him the price. It was the MAO of the property. He had it. He had the
Yeah.
lockdown. And it
It
was
was
like
there.
you had one objection. And I love Steven. I think Steven's a great closer.
Yeah. Yeah. Of
It
course.
was just one of those moments. I don't know if it was because there's 2 minutes left on the shot clock or he thought he had done enough or
No.
what it
So,
was.
so, so what happened was he left the seller by himself. He said, I'm just going to be here on the other side. I'm going to pause real quick and I'm going to let you look over it. And if you have any questions, I'll be here for you. So I think one of
Right.
the things that we discussed was, so the seller read it and he was like, you know what? I think there was, because sellers aren't going to tell you because they don't want to feel dumb or ashamed, whatever
Right.
word you want to use to say, hey, I don't understand this. They're not going to come out and basically tell you that. Some will, but majority of them are not going to do that because they don't want to feel like they're dumb, right? So I think that's the mistake that he made, because that's when the seller came back and said, I looked it over. I think, it's just there's nothing here, but I got to think this over. There was something there. So what should have happened was him just paraphrase and walk through the highlight points. That's usually
Right.
what we do. Yeah,
Right.
and get it locked up. He could have. He had it. He just said, I'll look through it. I'll be here. I'm gonna put myself on pause. And if you got any questions, he just left them alone. That's what happened.
I know. And then even with what you're saying, even if that's like he made that same choice,
Right.
and the seller says what he said, yet you have to take a swing.
Yeah,
You got to go for it and say,
you
well, I
do.
can walk you through it right now. But
Yeah.
honestly, what did I say to the woman when she gave me the exact same objection?
Yeah.
Ma'am,
Yep.
I'm in a competition with my buddies and I got to get a contract by 4 o'clock. I
Yep.
need you to do it. Funny
That was
enough,
awesome, by the way.
people have not brought this up, okay? But the call before that, I told the guy the exact same thing. I said, I'm in a competition with my buddies and I
Yeah,
need
you
to get
did.
a contract.
I remember that. You did.
And he goes, I'm not signing the contract. And I don't know if you heard the girlfriend in the background, but he was in Kansas. And I'm assuming he's watching the Kansas City Chiefs game, which was on during this time. She goes, I'm trying to watch the game. Get off the damn phone. And so there was no talking about their shit box in Kansas
Yeah.
City. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it failed on call number 1, but it worked on call number 2.
But
He was just at that moment, man. You got to take a swing for it. You're in a competition.
You do.
know?
You do. I think you have to. I mean, you can't just let them off the hook. Yeah, unfortunately.
And here's the thing: in business, when it's not Closers Olympics, okay, this is why this is important for everyone to understand. If Steven makes that decision and says, sure, I'll call you back tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And then I immediately call him right after that. And I get him on the phone. And he says the exact same thing to me. I'll sell for 40,000. And my MAO is 40,000. And I send the contract, or Max sends the contract. Max, are we letting him off the phone without signing that damn contract?
Oh, hell no. No, we're not. We're not getting off the phone.
And I don't think Steven does either in a real life scenario.
Right.
But at the end of the day, that's what happened. That was one of those moments. This damn fly. It's crawling with the fly. He's back.
Uh-oh. He's back.
He's back to haunt me. So,
no, you know, I've seen Steve's stuff and Steven's stuff, and I think it might have been a moment of the clock or whatever the case may be, but yeah, I don't think he would have let him off that easy.
Right.
Let me ask you something, man. Let me ask you something. What did you think about the opening line? How you doing? How did I catch you doing? What did I catch you doing over there?
Who was it that used that?
Almost everybody. I think Elijah, Keith, Noah.
Elijah. Okay, so I missed Elijah and Keith. Okay, so I have not watched them yet, but I did hear someone say that about Elijah. And look, I'll say this. I think Elijah, Keith, and Aaron are in a really tough position where they're trying to put on the event, and then they got to come on and be a contestant.
And perform. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree.
I don't know what happened in Elijah and Keith's rounds, but it sounds to me like not a whole lot. Sounds to me like they just didn't perform well, and I hate that for them because I know that they're good closers. I mean, we saw Elijah pull out 2 Steph Curry last year. You know, I don't really like that line, to be honest with you. How you doing, or what I catch you doing? Because again, that's not who I am.
Right.
I'd be disingenuous if I was trying to say that. I like to just look. My objective when I get someone on the phone is to establish they own the property, they're the decision maker, they want to sell, and then I want them to set the anchor with their price as quickly as possible.
Okay, that's
my objectives. So if you hear all of my calls, it's the same thing. Hey, I'm calling for the owner of 123 Main Street. Yeah, that's me. Hey, I know you talked to my assistant. Are you looking to sell? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You got an asking price? Everyone's like, I can't believe RJ asked for an asking price so early, because they're setting the initial anchor there. That's where all the negotiations are going to start from that point on.
It is 100%. No, I agree with that. But
Elijah's all about rapport building, right? So he wants to say, what I catch you doing? I'm over here watching the football game. Oh man, what game? You know, that's how he starts this stuff. That's not me.
Yeah, no, it's not me. It's not me either. And I'm not a big fan of it. If it works, you know, again, going back to the personality, right? I I think you create unnecessary objections for yourself. So one of the biggest things with our system is that we try to avoid, well, not try it, but the goal is to avoid any unnecessary or for us to create ourselves any unnecessary objections, like you, right? Like
Right.
you're trying to establish if you're talking to the owner and are they the decision makers, and then price to get them to anchor. Those are
Yep.
straightforward, right? Those are systems that you're implementing right away, and you're not trying to create unnecessary objections for yourself that you have to
Listen, and
overcome at some
when I
point.
talk about the anchor there, I think it's very important for everyone to understand, because most times people hear that where we anchor price the
Yeah, where
seller.
we anchor them low. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
right.
When I refer to the anchor, is one of us is throwing out the anchor first.
Yeah.
And if they throw out the anchor, then I'm going. That's them saying 100,000. Then we know I probably got somewhere between 85 and 100,000 to get them to
Correct.
on average. If I
Yeah.
throw out the anchor of 50, then that's them thinking they can probably get me up to about 60.
Yeah.
Right. That's my
Yep.
mentality in that. So it's one of us is
Yep.
throwing it out. Who's going to
Yeah.
be the first one? I want it to be them.
Yeah,
every
you
single
always
time.
want it to be them, because then
Right.
you establish the grounds to start playing.
Yep. All right. I got a question about the open run for you.
Sure.
Byron and Pat started a conspiracy theory, and I'm gonna throw them out under the
Yeah, I
bus.
already know where you're
Okay?
going, bro. I already know where you're
All right. Pat feels like the judges judged the open run people easier than they judged all of us guru types. What are your opinion?
I agree 100%, bro. I'm not shying away
Okay.
from that. 100%. They gave, I mean, again, I don't know if it's the judges that were on them first day. I'm not sure, right? They were more happy-go-lucky or whatever you want to
Right.
call it. But I agree 100%. It was just very generous scoring on the first day. Yeah, 100%.
Well, I had a question. I mean, look, I'm not gonna. I guess I am gonna kind of bitch for a second here, but I mean, final round, okay. I mean, signed contract. The knockout blow's been had. The judges come in and say, stop the fight. 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
Munif somehow scored a higher score than me on day one. He got a 109 and I get a 108.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's not the same thing, but I'm like,
Yeah.
what did Munif do on day one? Did he get pulled off the stage? Because I got pulled off the stage. I'm like, that's what blew me away. Was like, it's kind of like, I don't know what happened on the judging on day one. That seems pretty generous. I don't know how you could possibly get a 109.
So I think, I agree 100%, man. I think the judging was very, very generous on the open run day. I don't know why, but I thought about that as well.
Do you think they were generous on Munif to get him to the finals?
I don't know if I can verify that. It looks that way, right? I will say this, and I'm not gonna say who, what, or when, but I know on out of all the judges, on one of the judges' story, there was only 2 stories, which one was a text from Pace Morby, and then a shot of Munif and him in the shot.
Right. Exactly.
In the finals. Yeah. So that, and I think that's the judge that scored me the lowest on the last day.
Is Munif a real person, or was he actually Pace Morby dressed up to be someone else?
Based on what happened Sunday morning, I have to go with the latter. It was Pace Morby dressed as someone else.
There is no Munif. There is only Pace Morby.
Yeah, I mean, he got the whole thing done up. You know how they do in Hollywood, right?
He sounds like him. He sounds like him. I mean, it's like, holy shit, this isn't Munif.
By the way, I went back to your Instagram and I watched the video that you did. Oh man, that was hilarious.
Oh man, I thought that there was. If you had to ask me who I thought should have made the finals, even with Steven's mess up, I thought Steven should have been in the finals.
Yeah, he should have.
And I felt that way last year. I feel bad for Steven because this is 2 years in a row. I felt the guy should have made the finals, and he hasn't made it. So I feel really bad for the guy.
So let me ask you something on that point. I know we're going here into an hour, but do you think it was because of the hard judging from the judges, or was there something that he was missing potentially in his calls?
I honestly think they punished him because it was too lay down of a lead. Like,
Oh, I
seller
see. I see what
answers
you're
and
saying.
seller says, yes, I want to sell. Okay.
Oh, okay. Right.
How much do you want to sell for? The MAO. And Steve was like, well, I can do
Got
that.
it.
What's your email? Boom, 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 boom,
So
boom.
he missed. So basically, he didn't hit the report building, the objections, and so I see what you're saying. That
But
makes
again,
sense.
Max, this is the closers
Closers.
Olympics.
Yeah.
This is not the rapport building Olympics.
It's not.
It's not any of that other stuff. It's about getting deals. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
God, that to me was just
Yeah, that
I
was
thought
tough. No, I could see that. I could see that. Yeah.
I thought
I
they
could
were
see how they punished
savage
him.
with Steven's score. I was blown
Yeah.
away by that. Just like I
No,
was blown away with your score on the
oh,
last
dude, that from 1 point, I was like, literally 1 point, man. They should have made it at least 5 points. Let's not make it that obvious.
Right, exactly. This is just blown away. Just all right.
Yeah.
We didn't like Max at all.
100%,
So, all
brother.
right, are you going to be back next year?
100%. I'm back next year, man.
100%.
So be ready.
All right.
Be ready.
So you're coming for the crown next year. They asked me live that was my winning moment. You know, last year they gave Adrian like fucking 30 minutes to sit there and gloat about winning. I got
that ending was terrible,
seconds.
dude. I have to say that it was terrible. Like they ended on a cliffhanger. Like it was like, here you go. All right, we're done.
Well, dude, I had to wait 45 minutes to be announced as the winner. I was blown away, and legitimately I was pissed.
Yeah, I would be too.
I was like, guys, I have a plane I have to catch. Like legitimately, like can we announce me as the winner? And they're like, well, we're calculating scores. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. Come on, I got a signed contract, guys. There's no drama here, okay?
Yeah,
Announce
no.
it. Let's go. Give me a minute here. It was weird. But they asked me if I'm coming back. I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. I wanted to be Steve Train this year.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a judge. I wanted to go do what Steve did. By the way, I thought Steve was awesome.
Oh yeah, 100%.
A little savage on you, but you know what? Kudos to you guys. Okay, you didn't do the all-in bullshit. All right,
we didn't want that to happen. Me and him had a discussion about that for sure. Yeah.
And look, hey, I was the guy that was talking shit. I was like, we all know Steve's gonna fuck me and make Max the winner. You know,
he's gonna throw the rope. He's gonna throw the rope.
Right. That's how they do it in Phoenix. You know, so.
No, man, that's awesome.
You know, I was actually happy to see that he judged you harder than he judged other people. Because I'm like, dude, I mean, if I'm judging my partners and I'm gonna be like, come on, no, you should have done better here. I expect more out of you. So I appreciate that from Steve's perspective.
That's awesome.
So, all right, buddy. Well, look, last question I have for you about the Closers Olympics is if you could change one thing about the event, what would it be?
I would say, so the one thing that I would change is probably have the judges either go back or have them do their own practice in what actually how the scoring system works. Because I think there was a huge discrepancy in what each judge thought building report was, or what an actual what is it called, verbal offer was, right? I think they gave somebody points and there wasn't even no verbal offer there. I think just that would make it a lot better because now the judges are all on the same chord, right? So I think that would be the biggest thing, so that way they're in the same train of thought when it comes to giving scores. Yeah.
All right. I said that was the last question. I got one more.
Sure.
Since you and I are finalists for 2021, I feel like now suddenly we have some authority in the Closers Olympics decision process here. So what are your thoughts about in 2022, there needs to be a earn your way into the competition, like head-to-head battles where, and I presented this to Pat, and apparently Pat is helping with the social media team for the Closers Olympics. He was saying, look, we can make this free events where, for example, guys that didn't do good this year, take Elijah and Keith, for example, and say the Saturday before, 1 hour, 30 minutes each. Keith versus Elijah to earn the right to be in the 2022 Closers Olympics.
Yeah.
And then guys like me and you could judge them and pick it. What do you think about some NCAA?
I'm for that 100%. As a matter of fact, I thought that was going to be the case with the runners-up on Friday. Not necessarily on Friday, but like a week before. I didn't know that they were just going to role play. Like, to me, that doesn't make sense, right? We need to see you in action. Role playing compared to action is a whole different animal, right? Whole different game. So that's what I thought was going to happen. When I heard like, well, they're going to role play against, some of the closers. I'm like, that don't make sense. Like, let's have them in action and pick the best guy to attend. I'm for that, bro. 100%. I love that idea.
But I'm saying I'm for this for the guys.
No, I know what you mean. I was just
the guys that are
getting
getting automatic invitations. It's like,
I'm not for that. Yeah, I'm not for the automatic invitation. I think you need to earn it to be on Closers Olympic. We're talking about, right, the who is who of closers across the country. Like, just because you have a brand or just because, just because you can bring – I get it, right? I understand the aspect of it of bringing your following to buy into the Closers Olympics. But also we want to maintain the – I mean, I think, honestly, like – and again, you were last year. I wasn't. I believe this year – from what I hear and from the feedback I'm getting, like, it leveled up tremendously. I don't know if you're getting that feedback or not, but that's what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, the reality of it is that the winner this year actually closed deals. I mean, the winner last year, he negotiated the wrong way. I mean, his winning moment was the seller said $5,000 and he wrote the contract for $7,000 and he didn't even get the fucking thing signed. So I don't know how that makes you king closer. But it did. I got that thing signed, though. So, yes, it leveled up. But dude, from across the board, though, we had verbal agreements were regular across, and sending out contracts was happening. That didn't happen last year. I mean, the competition was much better this year.
Yeah, no, awesome. But I'm with you, man. I think there needs to be a pre or a pre. You gotta qualify a qualifier. And live calls.
Right. And it hypes the event up, right?
100%.
Head to head. I mean, imagine if this year they had said, hey, Max and RJ have to go head to head to earn their right to go to the Closers Olympics.
Oh,
Me
man.
and you go head to head and we put on a great show for 1,000 people watching live.
Yeah.
And then they're
free.
Like, free. And then they're like, dude, I got to go watch that guy do that again.
Exactly.
I think that's a great way to promote the event.
I love that.
So hopefully, the message will get back to the guys. So, anyways, Max, congratulations on.
Thank you, man. You too.
And finishing, being a finalist. Again, I thought you should have finished higher than you did. Yeah. But hey, I'm the guy that's always.
Hey, and this might make you happy. You better believe I rub it in Steve's face every single day.
As you should. Look, you should go get a Real Estate Disruptors King Closer belt just for you. Like, this is your belt in the office, right?
I should. Yeah. Actually, we had our sales training call today, and I was wearing the hat, and people were making comments like, I see you, Max. That's a big flex on Steve. That's the comments started trickling.
Absolutely. You got that for the next. Well, he's not ever going to compete again. He's officially
retired sound like
as a closer.
Yeah, it doesn't. I think he retired, man.
he's just an all-time judge now. I guess that's what happens when you get big time like him. Hey, me and you, we're actually competitors, and we want to play the game. I guess he's just old and lost his competitive edge. That's what happens when you get famous like Steve. So.
Exactly.
All right, Max. Appreciate you coming on, man. All right, guys, that's our episode for today. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you like our ideas for the Closers Olympics, hey, tag us in a post. Let the Closers Olympics know so we can make the event bigger and better for 2022. Thank you, Max.
Sir. Later.